What's going on? I just thought I'd come on here because I got something to ramble about, but it's very this is very motivational. This is not anything discouraging. It's not anything, crucifying broke people or nothing like that. This is just just something that I was just thinking about, right? So most people they worry about certain things. Let's just say, okay, before you go to sleep at night, people think about certain things, right? And let's just say, let's just say, uh, people probably thinking about a couple things. First thing is, people probably thinking about health and wellness, okay, or just overall well being. And it's not just, you thinking about it for yourself, you thinking about it for you, your family, your children, everyone, loved ones included, right? Even your pets, right? Um, you thinking about, okay, what can I do to become more healthy, have a better well-being, right? And a lot of that worrying, it comes from a source of basically lack. And in this system, unfortunately, and it was turning this way before we were born. Reagan, under the Reagan administration, a lot of things, he was allowed to be, the greatest puppet master that ever existed for the wealthy to enjoy, the next 50 to 100 years of basically financial gain at the expense of everyone else, and you know basically poor people cannibalizing themselves, right? That started kind of around, Reagan. Even before Reagan, you could say Nixon and so forth, where they took out the backing of the currency to gold and made it a complete fiat currency that's backed by only the strength and might of the government and the military, which unfortunately is, that's a whole nother conversation, right? Because that's, basically the bullies. The bully doesn't bully other bullies, right? And then when the bully, right, right, let's say other people get tired of the bully bullying them, well, they just go to the bullies, you know, uh adversaries, or the bullies um foes, right? The ones that the bully won't pick on, right? The bully only picks on certain people, right? Certain places, certain countries or whatever. And okay, the whole imperialism and military might, well, it has its reaches. Well, if everyone goes and to the other side and then gets with the bullies adversaries, and they get some strength from those adversaries of the bully. And I'm just, for context, I'm just saying the United States has been a bully, right, for a long time now. The bully, he's, he they don't have any, they have fewer people to bully. They don't have that many people to bully, no, that many countries to bully, because other countries, they got smart. They like, okay, well, this guy, these people are scared of these people, so I'll just get with this country and have some cover of protection. Then they won't mess with me anymore, because you know they're bullying me but okay, they won't bully. I know they won't bully you, right? So I'll get your protection and I'll join your cause in your country. And yeah, this country and these other countries won't bully me anymore. Well, yeah, that's what's going on now, right? So even being backed by the government, okay, the government, what if the government gets weaker? What if that might and strength gets weaker, right? Well, that's what we're seeing now. That's what you're seeing in the world. That's what you're seeing in the United States. But with that said, um, most of you know everything that I'm talking about as far as the currency not being backed there by gold anymore, that was basically the 1970s Nixon administration. Then Reagan came along and pretty much he became a puppeteer for the plutocrats and oligarchs, and you still have that going on to this day where basically wealth distribution, wealth inequality has reached the highest of highs in America, right? In other countries like Canada. And it's almost impossible, it seems, for some people. Like some dude on my comment section, he doesn't believe that he believes it's possible, but he almost believes it's a pipe dream to be able to be wealthy. That's the world that we live in. That's why, you know, I do videos like this. That's why I have this channel, because I don't want you thinking like that. And then also the reason why you think like that, I know why you think like that, because of this system where you have this few and fleeting wealth class that dominates, just like it's like they're a master class, and then they have the managerial class in between them that basically hires and fires any people. And obviously they don't hire that many people. They're very selective, right? Like trying to get a job at Google or Netflix. So in order to get that job, you have to go through the managerial class, right? To be their slave, right? And that's what you have where, a lot of people, they're in between trying to get, they're trying to keep their job if they got it, or they're trying to get a job if they don't have one, and they're trying to go through the managerial class, that basically is beholden to the master class, which is the global elite, the global billionaires, and multimillionaires, of course, that own basically most of the wealth, right? The top 20% own nearly all of the wealth in this country. The top 20%, the top 10 own almost like 35%, just the top 10. The 10% own almost close to 40% of the wealth in this country. The top 20 own nearly all of it, like 80 something percent. So when you have this type of society, people do think, oh, I can't get rich, I can't get wealthy, I can't get out of this, because it's so the mountain to climb to get to that point to where you're anywhere close to that is almost even impossible to think about. And then people don't even think, they're not thinking, it's not like people like, oh, I'm gonna be the next Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or Peter Thiel or you know, dude from Oracle, Larry Ellison. They don't think that. Like that's almost like, yeah, like that's almost like pipe dreamish, right? These people don't think that they can make a fucking $1,000,000. It's not that they don't like it's not that they're arguing that they can't be a super, a billionaire on the Forbes list, top 100 wealthiest people in the world or the country or whatever. They don't even think they can make a $1,000,000, which $1,000,000 is not much to someone. Like all you got to do is own some property in what, Compton, California, or Southeast Los Angeles or something in the hood, and you're a millionaire on as far as assets, because You own the house outright, because California real estate is so expensive. You just own property in the northeast corridor, or Los Angeles County, parts of probably even Seattle, whatever. You just own real estate, you're a millionaire, right? They don't even believe that they can even do that. That's how defeated people are because of this system, this actual system that we are in, to where you have the wealth so embedded at the top that people believe it's almost impossible to just even be a millionaire. So um that's the world. That's why that is, because it seems so impossible. People don't even get $100,000 jobs. Like, people talk about they don't talk about the whole six figures anymore. I mean, it only thing I hear about that is, like, I think the Kendra G show, or is it Kendra D, or is Kendra? I think it's Kendra G, the chick from the radio show. She was Chicago radio show or whatever. But, like, basically, that show doesn't have that much credibility, because one of the things about Kendra G, and it's not like I'm the only one that notices this, but Kendra G, a lot of those women that basically gravitate, just the people in general that gravitate towards her show, are extremely lower class. And I didn't say ghetto, but lower class. And lower class is not really taken serious. And lower class, just, they look almost clownish when you see a woman that looks like she probably lives in the projects, asking for a guy that makes $100,000 or more, um that doesn't have any kids, and she has five kids. People don't take that serious. It becomes comedy. It's entertainment. But the thing is, that's the only time I hear about that. People not talking about that the whole I make six figures, is because it's not really a big deal. And only like 10%, or I think like 20% overall individuals make over $100,000. $100,000 jobs are not, depending on your skill set, are not easy to get. I'll just say, if you're not an engineer, like a software engineer, you're not like into cyber. I'll tell you the top, as far as tech, as far as fields that I know make $100,000 or more. Basically, any job that you have to have some type of, like, bachelor's degree, and then you have to get certified, like you got to pass a test, like to be a nurse, doctor, architect, um, lawyer. Like, usually those jobs, those pay over six figures, because they're kind of hard to attain to a certain you have to go through a series of steps, and so on and so forth. Um and then if you have specialized skills, like if you know how to, like I say, if you know how to code, you know how to, software engineering, how to even cybersecurity, you can add database administration, anything that's kind of advanced. Yeah, you can make close to 100,000, or if not more. Especially if you have like years of experience. But most people are not going to be nowhere near $100,000. You got a lot of people that work in a factory. Most of the people on this YouTube, and like YouTube, are in their conversations, in their dialect, is blue collar talk. That's why, I mean, like, I ain't gonna lie, like, it gets really repetitive and boring for me, because I've since ascended the blue collar realm, a long time ago. And it's like, it's like, it's almost dystopian and sci-fi type shit when
ascend from the blue collar realm and you go to the white collar realm and you're around, CEOs and executives and making a bunch of money. You're around a bunch of people, you're around these billion-dollar companies, and you sit in an office and you're using your brain more so than your physical labor. That's it's not it's different. Some people don't like to acknowledge that or think about it, but it is a difference between a guy typically that's a truck driver versus a guy that hits buttons on keyboards most of the day and solve technical problems for people. It's a difference. Not to say that one, it might be some guys that might be, goodwill hunting behind a Kenilworth, or a Volvo truck. But most of the truck drivers that I know are just basic or below average. Some are above, they're smart. If they on YouTube, chances are people on YouTube tend to be smarter. Because I'm saying in the sense of if they're a regular person on YouTube and it just something about people that are on YouTube. I'm not saying that makes you smarter, but I ran into a lot of people that are smart on YouTube that from different channels and stuff that I've been to, but most blue collar people are just basic, and it's like, it's nothing against blue collar people, but it was just like basic conversations um and not to say people that are blue collar don't make money. They do make money. Yet a lot of times it's it's just a different type of person. A person that's really blue collar, it's almost like going to the country club versus going to the bowling alley. The bowling alley is, smoky and dirty and misty and sweaty and, a whole bunch of people. And, it's just designed based off of like you just get off work and then you put in your bowling shoes and you take your little date, or you have a date night out with the kids or a family night out with the family, and you bowl, versus, okay, I gotta pay and spend 15 1800 dollars a month for this country club, and this golf cart is $100 before you even get the golf clubs out and start teeing off. Your expenses are in the thousands. The people around you is not that many because there ain't that many people in this expensive club, right? And it conversations might be a little bit different, but it's just a different type of reality. And um again, it's not to put one against the other. I used to work primarily blue collar at one time, and when I was in my 20s, kind of took a shift. But yeah, people work blue collar are typically a lot different. A lot different conversations, because a lot of times people that work blue collar jobs, the reason they've been doing it for so long, a lot of these guys, they went straight from high school, or even they didn't even graduate high school, and they went right to work. So they've been working at the Lay's factory or some automotive dealership or automotive facility like Ford or Chrysler or something, and they've been just working these jobs, making money, buying cars, paying car notes, and trying to keep their girlfriend happy, this now their wife or whatever. It's typical blue collar type of stuff, and it's just, that's just how people are. I kind of went too much in depth into that, but um, I say all of that to say that just most people are going to make like 80% of individuals are going to make less than $100,000. Statistically, most people make less than $100,000 a year, and that goes for blue collar and white collar. So the thing is that most people, I would say, most people are worrying about certain things. The first thing is health and well being. The second thing that most people are going to be worrying about, and this is, tripped out, but most people are actually worried about their future. That's what most people are, because, like, yeah, most people are concerned about their financial future, like the actual future. Because whether you're doing okay, people that worries, like, they not only worry about the present, but they also worry about the future. And that worry is based off of, like, for example, I was thinking to myself earlier, I was like, what the reason why people worry so much is is because of primarily cash flow. I mean, of course, they, knowing how to make that cash flow and manage it, having the 3M skills, which is mindset, money management, and of course, momentum. Like, when you're the reason why a lot of times people are worrying is because they don't have enough money to not worry. Like, and people never think about it. Like, think to yourself, I want you listening to this now or in the future, what is in a certain amount of money that you probably won't be worrying that much? Like, what is that amount? And to me, obviously I'm older, so to me, $10,000 a month is not really, that's fine. I've had months where I made $10,000 or more. You know, um, the thing is that it would have to be $100,000 plus a month for a lot of the worrying to kind of go away. And what I mean by that is, like, most people worry about, all right, they don't have enough to pay for something, or they got some stuff that's coming up. So they got some current bills that's on its way, and if sometime in the not too distant future, just basically basic needs. Most people worry about basic needs. Really, they don't really have enough to pay for basic needs. And that's most people, okay? Um I will say that, basically, demographically, there are some, there's demographics of people that don't make that much. So they kind of, it might be some variances. And this is the strange thing about being like Africa, being the African American demographic. All right. So it would appear, and a lot of times I even, this is is an anomaly for me, but it's not really that strange when I break this down. Like, for example, black people in America actually, yeah, the quote unquote people at the bottom financially, right? That's true. But the weird tripped out thing about black people in America financially, if you just looked at, and this is what most people do, including I'll say that I'm guilty of this as well. They'll just be looking at it like, oh, well, yeah, those black people, they just don't have any money. They're just so poor and they're just so broke, and they didn't have any money. And they leave it at that. But what they forgot is, well, when you compare black people to Asians, as well as others, like, for example, um, Arabians will be considered others, Jews will be considered others. Um, eh, you know, a lot of people will probably consider in that other category, Armenian, right? Well, there's not that many Asians like as a populace, there's not that many. I think they're like maybe what 5% of the population, 3% of the population. I'm not sure. Um, uh, Others like Arabians and stuff, Persians. There's not that many in this country, right? So it's like you could put them all together in like 10% of the population. Well, African Americans are, like 14 to 15% of the population because it's more of us, and it is a lot of people that are making money, and it is quite a few black people that actually are millionaires. And it's not the people like LeBron James or Angel Reese or just the regular entertainers and people it's people outside of entertainment in the business world that actually are millionaires. They might have a TikTok and they manufacture some household items, and you just don't even know they exist. They're just out there, just regular, they just got a small business or something, right? Nice operation. They got contracts or whatever. They making, some money. And it's a quite a few black households um that actually do have $1 million or more or are millionaires. And because it's so many black people as far as population, there's more actually second to white folks as far as the millionaires in this country. Black people are actually second behind white people. Black people are actually second as far as the most actual millionaires, believe it or not. Like, I'm not making this up, and I've talked about this before. There's a documentary actually that stated this, and people don't that's the whole thing, like with population size, right? So I mean, white people lead in a lot of categories because there's just so many of them, right? Well, you got to think, okay, yeah, Indians and other Asians, yeah, they make quite a bit of capital as far as their demographic, as far as their group, but it's not that many of them. Okay, it's a small population. So okay, you might have what out of others and Asians, let's just say it's around 10%. Okay, not all of that 10% is going to be millionaires. I mean, some of those are going to be children, elderly people, uh, and not all of their demographic is millionaires or even making over $100,000. So it's not that because it's a small population of them. It's not they're not more millionaires that are Asian as far as the size, as far as quantity, than there are black people. Okay, like because it's more black people in this country, population size, and it's a lot of of course LeBron James and all these other people. I was watching the NFL, and people probably got their heads cracked because they probably thought that Ravens was going to beat the Detroit Lions, and they found out the hard way, right? But yeah, those people making millions of dollars, right? But there's a lot of people that are doing stuff like you got people that are running a dentist practice, you got doctors, you got lawyers. You don't even know who these people are, right? They're just regular folks that yeah, they make million bucks or more. So it's something that people don't really know because propaganda wise, people believe that black people just poor, don't have any money, and yeah, as far as demographic wise, because they dump everything in a pool. Um, yeah, it's a lot of black people that are struggling, right? And if you combine all of these people that are struggling, it's a lot of people. It's a big pool, but then you also have a bigger population, 15%, that of that 15% is more people and it is a lot more people that are millionaires in that demographic pool. So it's a weird anomaly because it's like if you really don't like, if nobody ever told you, probably wouldn't even know. That's how bad it is because people don't really actually do the statistics or research statistics and also even research. People don't research anything about money. Um, I'll say a lot of black people don't really talk about money. They talk about other things more than they should, in my opinion. And the money problem is one of the biggest problems for black people in America. It's the reason why they even over here. I mean, the English settlers and European settlers wanted to get rich in this new country called America, and they came up with the idea of slavery, or the idea of bringing these Africans from Africa over here to work for free. Like they got rich off of that. The reason why they came over here was to get rich. So if the whole thing is like, I don't get why black people think it's anything different, and or was ever any difference. It's still the same thing. It's not, might be a different dynamic, right? But it's still a lot of the capital, and making capital was the motivation then, and it's still the driver to this day, if not even worse, right? Because you got a lot of things going on right now. It's a lot of consolidation at the top, right? I mean, the whole idea of it all is, yeah, it is quite a few black people that are middle class. It is a lot of black people as far as number wise, because it's a lot of black people um that are millionaires. Okay. Second to, I think the Hispanics are edging in as far as population, because they're the leading minority. It's either they have already edged blacks, or they're either number two or number three behind black African Americans as far as the most millionaires by actual number. Okay, because I mean, Asians are the most wealthiest as far as their average, their average mean of making over $100,000 a year, because most of them as a populace are small business owners. They got the hair stores, the beauty supply stores, the nail shops, the cleaners, and other businesses they have, right? Stores and whatnot. So they're into business and making profits, and they're very much into business, as well as working in for others as well. And they do well, right? Money is part of their religion, damn near. Like, money is religious for them, right? They got like certain, things like money trees, and all, the jade, and it's a religion. Like, if you study Japanese culture, Chinese, Korean culture, they do have certain things. When you go, like, there's some intertwining of like certain, like, financial philosophy when it comes to their culture. And it's like, that's what they basically, that's one of the reasons why they're very much into it. Like, they're really, it's part of their religious construct, right? Or cultural construct. And some people say black people don't have any culture. I don't believe that. Black people do have a culture, and our culture, unfortunately, it's missing that part of, not so much like making money religious, but having some type of cultural, economic representation, or cultural representation to intertwine into black people's daily comings and goings as far as having some type of money ritual or some type of money standard, or I don't know, like in the case of like, Chinese and Koreans, they have like, the money tree. They have literally a tree, like a little tree that is called the money tree. And this tree is supposed to give you good luck. Basically feng shui is actually very simple. Like it's not just money, but it's about like energy, the way you design your house, the way you organize everything, for balance and for prosperity. So it's part of their culture, right? It's a cultural construct within their culture to have financial success, have success in life, right? Well, I mean, because a lot of us were, harmly affected by slavery. I mean, obviously, and being transported from another land to a strange land, right? That they kind of messed that all up, right? They lost that link, right? Whatever the linkage is from Africa, it was broken, right? Um, but the thing is, uh, nonetheless, I mean, it's that's one of the reasons why Asians do really really well. It's literally in part of their culture. It's enculturated within their culture for them to also have some type of financial prosperity. You could say if you look at a lot of cultural traditions, it's intertwined with certain, you could even say, prosperity narratives, or something financial related. There's certain things in the Bible, right? It's financial types of philosophies and stuff in the Bible. So it's very important, but it's something that a lot of people overlook. So it's a cultural thing. you know um Unfortunately, that's the barrier that you're trying to break through, trying to have a financial channel. And there are successful black people, but a whole bunch of unsuccessful black people financially, and trying to bridge the gap to these people that, to take things more serious, to look at finances more serious. Even myself, I mean, I don't really, I'm trying to not talk about other stuff other than financially related things. Trying to keep center on that, because a lot of this is an issue, and it's like, in my opinion, it's more of an issue than, oh, she doesn't like me. Oh, she don't submit to me, or whatever, or I can, these women are hard, or whatever, trying to deal, like, in my opinion, the financial control that a lot of financial and economic control that this country has, as well as just the whole overall economic system, is way more to do than trying to get a bunch of chicks to, you know um yeah, I mean, I don't know, do whatever you want them to do with you. I'll just say, like, it's way more, like, because I would even say the economic control is so severe, is so fluid, that it literally has people. It's like putting a condom on a bunch of dicks. Okay, like, I mean, because people are not making money, they don't feel or think that they can financially take care of children in the long run. It's almost like a mouse utopia, like, type of thing, where they believe, because I don't make this amount of money, or I see it's a struggle, and I think this is going to continue, so I don't want to have children. Like literally, that's how they like literally. And I've said this on this channel before. It's been a while since I've said this, but yeah, one of the influences for you to get money out of your hands is so you don't. It's population control, basically. And it's like, man, once I, and that's one, one of the things I'll have to say. And I'm not, I'm not saying I'm not an advocate to be broke with children or struggling with children. But one of the ways I was have to say is like the one to quote unquote stick it to the man. Like I'd be damned if I'm gonna like allow some fucking global motherfucking elites or whatever to put a fucking condom, a metaphorical condom on my dick and have me afraid to not have to produce. That's a level of psychological control that I just don't agree with. And I definitely bypass that. I mean, I'm fine and my children are healthy and fine and strong. They need braces, but basically, you know, I if not anything, I think I did better having children because it gave me a certain level of drive. But I mean, I get it. Yeah, people wanted to actually be millionaires before they had children, like, or like people probably had a certain amount or a certain type of way they wanted to live their life and have things in their life, to get a kid, right? Or to have children, right? And it just never, it probably never came, or they made the money, but then they don't have the person, in their life, and it's like, yeah, it's just, I don't know, but I mean that is a one of the most, I guess, severe cases of how economic control influences people's daily decisions and lives, and even what they worry about, right? Because that's what this is about, right? Um, After this, a lot of the worrying stops. And the thing is yeah, people worrying about their financial future influences their decisions, right? A lot of people are concerned about their financial future, so they put a invisible Trojan on their cocks by the global elites, right? The global elites got them so shook. They got, they're wearing metaphoric invisible condoms, right? They're pulling out because the global elites told them to. It's like, I mean, I get it, right? I have a fear of child support just like any other man. I can imagine every time I get paid, I only get paid $100. I can I can imagine that because I got arrears and back child support, right? I mean, it's crazy, and don't get me wrong, I laugh. Really, I'm crying because I would imagine I probably would cry. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I do have empathy for um this system of child support, right? Because it's really a system designed to basically just almost consume and cannibalize poor men, right? Men that don't have, the means, right? Because if you got the means, it's just like child support, something you talk about over a chicken dinner, in a Wasco, or what is it? What do you call it? The Waffle House, and then you go go to the strip club. Or I mean, I don't know. Like it's, if you got it like that, you just, it's not that much of a conversation, to a person that just makes 50 grand a year or 30 grand a year. It's a big deal. You know, that's um a lot of money taken taken out of your check, right? But yeah, that's all of this is designed for population control. I just have to, in case you just wondering, you wasn't convinced, I just tell you, just like it is. Like that's one of the major reasons of or powers that this capitalistic system that we have, where you just have a bunch of people that's just really on the edge or border of being broke, or if not already broke. And a lot of people delusionally believe that they're not, or they try to put on some type of image that they're not by buying, all of the things that people buy, right, and consume. And the thing is that all of this is for the basis of it is, yeah, to have you so scared to fuck, basically. Let's just call it what it is. Like, yeah, I'm so I speak my mind, right? I might cuss a little bit. I might say all kinds of stuff. Might be a little ghetto. I don't know. It depends on the way the wind blows. But the thing is that, yeah, they got a bunch of people afraid to fuck, basically. In a nutshell, afraid to have children, right? Um, right. So yeah, it's based off of this heavily economic control system that we call capitalism. And people not knowing how to deal with it, right? Right? Not knowing how to deal with most people, I would say one of the reasons why they have a hard time, they don't know how to deal with capitalism. They don't even know what capitalism is, I would even say. They don't have a clue. Like, you're dealing with just imagine a machine that you don't know how to operate or don't know how to deal with. And it exists. It consumes your life, right? Your daily, weekly, monthly life, but you don't know anything about it, or how to deal with it. You don't know how to have any counter systems, anything. Like, you uh, just live my life, drink my beers, take my Valiums, when it's too rough. And it's like, yeah, like a lot of people, that's what they do. They don't have any plan. They don't have any type of, they might have goals, but they don't have any budget. It's just all over the place. Just bad money management, right? Bad mindset, right? So they wonder why they don't have that much momentum. Well, there you go. The two lies the reason why, right? Um, no bad, terrible money mindset, terrible money management equals very little momentum, right? So the thing is that, yeah, that's a lot of people, they're worrying about their financial future. Okay. What am I gonna do right now? How am I gonna retire? Blah blah blah. I mean, it's bad. It's fucking it is crazy. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. Um, it's really tripped out. And another thing, what people worry about, financial future. I said health and well being. You know, um, it's just cost, just everyday. I'll just say everyday cost of living. Just it's your car. Your house, your transportation costs, your food cost. I mean, people don't really worry about food, but at the same time, when you pull up in a restaurant, what are you worried about? Food. What does this cost? Something. To get McDonald's, right? To get a happy or what is it? A Big Mac meal. It's like the cost of a steak dinner at fucking Sizzlers in the 90s and shit. Like you spend more at a fucking to go get McDonald's Space Burger, to go get a McDonald's Space Burger meal. The reason why I call them Space Burgers because they got so much preservatives. You can put it in a case and the thing will look edible probably 20 years later. almost as if it could survive in space. You know, but the thing is this: like to get a Big Mac space burger meal is the equivalent to the cost of a steak dinner, right? Fucking what, 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. So it's it's really crazy. But the thing is that people, that's what they're, it's a lot of people that's what they do. They eat at McDonald's, right? They're paying the cost. Rent is high, mortgages are high, real estate is high, right? Fed just lowered the rate, but I mean, you know, take some time for the blowback from that to occur. But yeah, cost of living is kicking people's ass. I mean, it is what it is. And the reason why you worry about that is, in my opinion, you just don't have the momentum basically to deal with that. Because here's the thing, and I'm gonna get up off of here, and it goes like this, like most, like, okay, I would say if you got $10,000 or more, you don't have to worry. You're not worried about a car. A car, you ain't worried about it. You can go get a little cheap Toyota, Nissan or something, or whatever, Honda, for about $5,000. Your little car that you got issues with, you can go fix it, get it fixed. Okay, right? That's most of people's concern, because, or people that concern themselves, they don't have any money to get their car fixed. They have a car payment, right? They got car insurance, they got car payments. Um, they don't have any savings because they live in check to check or whatever, trying to pay car payments or whatever. They just don't have the money for a car, so they worry about cars. Now, the second worry is housing costs, rent, mortgage, right? Um, that's why people go to work. Actually, I don't think people go to work for cars. They do, like young people, and if you still like if you got a mind of a teenager, like you still going to work just so you can get a nice car, and you paying car payments, you're an idiot. you're a fucking idiot that needs to grow up. Like literally, like you're a fucking loser idiot that needs to grow up. Like if you still on some like, oh, I just turned 16, I got a job at the Piggly Wiggly bagging groceries so I can pay for my my Ford Mustang. Like you still on, like if you on that, you got some like, you need to go talk to somebody. All right. But the thing is this, like, that's why most people are working. It's not because I don't think people are working because they want to pay for a car payment. People working to pay for a place for a roof over their head. I think that's why most people work. Okay. I think so. And that's what most people are working on, and that's what most people continue to work so they can pay for their housing costs. And that's what people worry about. Well, what would it cost you to not have to worry about? Because it's just the money thing, right? Remember your parents, you worried about whatever you wanted. Your parents gave you that amount that you needed. You stopped worrying about it because you got it already. Your mom gave you the money, your dad, whatever. You got the money. So you thinking about now, do I even want this? Or do I really want to go spend this money? So, but the thing is that that's the same thing with housing, right? So I'm in the Midwest. I would say to not have to worry about a house in the Midwest is about $300,000. That's 300. And most people, okay, let's look at Chat GPT. Okay. And I know in the northeastern corridor, I know on the west coast, different pockets in the United States, housing costs are way more than that. But in the Midwest, I mean, you could get a move-in ready, nice little house, in a nice, decent place, about 300 grand. That's what I'm seeing, right? Other places, I know it might be more, but here's the more important question. How many people have, I'll just say, have $400,000 saved liquid in the United States? Most people do not have anywhere near that. For sure, they don't. And I mean, that's why people need mortgages. That's why most people need mortgages, right? Because they don't have that. They don't have that. They don't have enough money to just go buy a house cash. Most people don't have that. So the only other alternative is get some type of mortgage. Okay. And the thing with that is you got to pay that every single month, right? You got to come up with the money to pay that mortgage. And that's a lot of worrying. That's a lot of worrying. Um a lot of worrying. And I think that's what the most of what people worry about, right? That they don't want to be homeless. The fear of being homeless, right? Um and the thing is what do you need? Like if you're in the Midwest, I'm telling you, if you got 300 grand, you know, a quarter of $1 million or more, you really don't. Most part, you don't have to worry about no. You don't have to worry about real estate. Like, I mean, if you if you want a certain type of lifestyle, that might differ. But I'll just say middle class, C grade neighborhood, probably in the Midwest, about 300 grand. Chicagoland area, Indiana for sure, Wisconsin, Michigan. I mean, Iowa for sure. So I mean, 300 grand is more than enough. But if you live in Virginia near the capital, I think it's probably what, three times that, two times that. So it differs, right? So um depending on where you live, right? And the thing is that if you had that amount of money, you wouldn't probably be worried about housing like that. Just probably wouldn't. And the thing is if you had $100,000 a month of income coming in, you also probably wouldn't worry about that. Wouldn't be something that you'd be worried about. But according to the Federal Reserve survey of consumer finances, people under 35 have the people that have $400,000 in financial assets, under 35, 3%, 35 to 44, 11%. 45 to 54, 18%. And the higher it goes, it gets higher and higher to like 75 people, 75 plus 30% of those individuals have $400,000 or more. So basically, the boomers and old Gen Xers have, somewhere between 25 to 30% as far as their population demographic has $400,000 or more. Now, here's the thing. I know some of you have a twisted mind, so you're gonna go get your ski mask on. You're gonna go rob some fucking baby boomers, but don't do that. Promise you, do not do that. Do not do that. You will not fucking, it will not go well for you. Do not go rob boomers, okay? Do not do that, man. The thing is that like that's most likely because of their retirement accounts. They've, probably got a 401k or some type of savings to where, or they've been, saving money or whatever, maybe a pension. That's why they have that, right? Their retirement income. But the thing is that yeah, that's why that's where the worrying comes from, you know. And it's like, yeah, if you really, because see, here's the thing. Like I was taught to not look at the leaves for the problem. Like if you got a problem, you don't start with the leaves, you go to the root. You go to the root, and then you find out how the roots are to determine what the core of the problem is. And a lot of people don't really think of things. Most things are simplistic when you realize the solution. It might be kind of complicated, but it's simplistic nonetheless. Or you make it less complicated as you possibly can. Make the solution, as smooth as possible, right? Well, I mean, it's not nothing new. I mean, not nothing. It's common sense. Obviously, if you had money, you wouldn't have a problem with money, right? That's not like, that's Captain Obvious stuff, right? But the thing is that, it's like you might not need to be a millionaire to not have to worry so much. The whole point is, well, okay, what you if you probably I'll just say this as like homework. Write down all of the things that you have problems with and mark them from major to minor. Major being like serious issues like your housing costs, transportation costs, or you might have medical costs. And then you write down a dollar amount. Like once you write down everything, write down a dollar amount right to the right or to the left or whatever, and how much it would cost to not have to worry about this particular, problem. And in each unit, write down a dollar amount of what it will cost to, like, if you had this amount of money, you probably wouldn't be worrying about this particular thing, right? And if you really think about it, right, like for me, just me personally, it's really housing costs. It's really like, to me, like overall, I would say about 300 grand. I wouldn't be. I would my whole life will probably be different. I would I would have a house, okay. I would have other issues because, okay, I didn't put all my money into this house and I got taxes to pay for every year. Well, I got to figure out what can I do to pay these taxes. And that's, a secondary problem. Like you overcome one issue, but then you have a secondary issue that comes in the future. So I mean, that's the thing though. I'm just saying, like, in general though, about 300, 400 grand, um you can sleep a lot better at night, you know. And that's the whole idea of it. Like that's I think that's probably something that will probably help you. If you one of those persons that worry a lot, do that homework assignment and then try to do the next step is try to figure out how you can make that amount of money. Like, will give yourself some type of timeline. That's the thing with my book, The Millionaire Savings Plan. It's like a roadmap of trying to kind of build up momentum to where you can get as high as you possibly can. The whole idea of it is if you could put a dollar amount to your worrying and you add all of these things up that you worry about. I mean, it's stuff that you gonna worry about that you can't, ain't no dollar amount. Your kids' well-being and everything like that. Of course, their mortality, Um, and the thing is, it's like, yeah, those things you gonna continue to worry about. And here's another thing that I have to add, right? Like, in my opinion, even if you have money, you're still going to have problems. If you have problems with women, depending on who you are as a man and what type of man you are, like currently, you having more money may help you or hurt, or it might not help you that much at all. Because I know guys that make a lot more than I do, and they still have they're terrible with women. And the reason why they are, I ain't really got time to get into, but it is people that do have money and they still have problems with women. And the thing is that like money doesn't necessarily grant you a woman, and that's the tripped out thing. That's the tripped out thing about the anomaly of women making money now, being, high earners or making money. They have to figure that out and they struggle to figure that out. And even men, they have to now struggle to figure out, yeah, like, okay, I got this traditional provider income, but you know, women make their own money now. Women they want your money and their money too. Like these some new age women. These are not, this is not 1950, 1960 women. This is 2025 women, and they got a job and they got a rose. They might even have a dildo in their drawer, and they make their own money, and they want you to have money, but they got their own money that they might want to use your money, but they're not going to listen to you, and basically be subservient to you, and basically almost like, like women back in the day. It wasn't like, because I've been watching Handmaid's Tale. I don't know why I got it. Well, actually, I do know why I got into Handmaid's Tale, but I don't know. I've been hearing about this for a long time, and I just all of a sudden I just started getting into it. Like I'm on like season 2. I know it's like probably what, like 7 or 8 seasons. I don't know, but I'm like on, I done got through about one season. I'm going into the second one, but the whole thing is like it, you know, that type of submission was like the Amish or the fucking Mormons or something like that, maybe Muslims. But I mean, women weren't like handsmaid tales. Like, I mean, like not in the 50s. It wasn't like that. It was just women pretty much kind of worked for their husbands. Like they took care of the house, they took care of the kids, and they were like, it was more women that were housewives, but it was a thing where this woman understood this man takes care of me and he's my boss. Like he's the head of the house, and I'm, the mother and the housekeeper or homekeeper, and I'm the person that, make sure everything is all right while he's away. They understood that, right? They understood those things, right? Some were really good at it, some were probably terrible at it, right? But that was what they were doing back then. Well, these women today, they don't understand those dynamics and roles like that. They're just not, they're they're not into being a housewife. They they got a different type of thing that they want to deal with. Now, that thing might go into Mouse Utopia, but it's still what they want to do. If they want to jump off, the lemmings want to jump off the cliff, they're gonna jump off the cliff. Now, what comes from that? It comes from that. But the thing is that's what they want to do. They've been doing it for like the last probably 60 years or so. They have full autonomy to make the best decision that they want to make. And you see how it's working out, right? and I'm gonna be honest with you. The tripped out thing about that, and I'm just gonna, I'm a eventually get up off of here, but the tripped out thing about women, and I thought about this, the thing of them wanting what they want, like a lot of the women, they they've chose a lot of different paths, but a lot of women just basically they just they got with the guy that had basically was giving them the best sexual experience. At least I'll just say, like, as far as what I noticed about black women, they it had to be like the almost the best sex they ever had. It was definitely sexually, like, a lot of black women base how they like you based off of your sexual prowess or sexual compatibility that they have with you. I mean, it just is what it is. It's just, it just is what it is. Now, I'm not saying that other women don't do that of different races, but that's pretty much what they do. Like, so a lot of times what I've noticed that women have done as far as what their choices that they've made, they basically and when I say they, I'm talking about like the women of the 80s, the 90s, the like free thinking women that just, chose their, suitor, you know, they said they moved their dad out the way. I can make my own choice. And then, they choose their, basically the future children, future fathers' children in their life, right? It was based off of usually the guy that, you know made them feel the best and sexually satisfied them. So those were the base motivators, right? So what you have now is you have a situation where these women chose, they valued their orgasm over like their future, right? Their orgasm was more important. So you got a bunch of like orgasm babies, like I ain't gonna lie, like I'm not in the whole dating coach thing and all of that, but I mean, I I knew, I mean, basically after high school or even during high school, like basically I understood, okay, if you wanted to get a bunch of women, you just have to be good at making them orgasm. And it's like basically because that's what they're looking for. They're chasing like their next, or their orgasm is everything, right? So it's like, and I've seen this personally. I've seen this with my own sisters, like that is based off of how much of a Kama Sutra warrior you are. So if you a Kama Sutra warrior, right? I mean, you got this baby mama, that baby mama. You got this baby mama fighting the other baby. Like you got a bunch of babies, right? Because you got a bunch of women that's basing everything off of a climax they're basically um orgasm, right? Their pleasure, right? Epicureans, right? Epicureanism, right? Versus stoicism, right? Embracing and chasing pleasure, consuming pleasure, right? At all costs to no end, right? Versus abstaining from pleasure, embracing pain, right? Stoicism versus Epicureanism, right? Embracing the pain, embracing the inevitable, right? Even to a certain degree, being nihilistic, right? So the thing is that you have a dynamic where it's not just black women that chose their orgasm you know over. I mean, this is the spawns of the sexual revolution, the hippie movement of the 1960s, peace, love, um getting high, you know embracing your third eye, your kundalini. All of that shit came from the 70s and 60s, the hippie movement, the free love movement, right? And what in the sexual revolution, right? So we all are products of that to a certain extent or another, right? So um so you have this now you have a lost generation, or a generation of single mothers that basically chose orgasms over um IQ standards, or SAT test scores and um collegiate GPAs. So it's like you have a thing where you wonder, and you also I mean it is what it is. I mean, it's comedy, kind of dark comedy, but the thing is that and you wonder why, you know I'm not saying everybody does this. It's outliers. It's people that have chose based relationships based off of other tangible things, maybe love, maybe compatibility. It is small percentage of women that do involve their father's input into their relationships with men, or possible future uh husband or fiance or whatever. So it's a very small percentage, but you still have some a semblance of traditionalism. But the thing is some women that just chose right as well. Just knew how, or figured out how to chose right, or maybe they had a balance of a good father and mother combo, and then they chose right, right. That also, it was an aspect of it, but a lot of women, just like I said, they just chose their primary objective was the best orgasm. Whoever had the best orgasm wins the baby daddy award of the year, right? And you got a bunch of free love babies and orgasm babies, right? And I know a lot of single mothers probably listening to this, and like this is very offensive, might be kind of cuts in the gut a little bit, but the thing is that the thing is, you got to understand that these are biological decisions that were made, right? And these are it's after effects of this, right? And, um almost to the point where it's kind of, to be honest, like it's very similar to, it's not it's not necessarily similar, but it's kind of interesting because if you see how in a certain degree, like they made a bunch of like super slaves, right, in slavery, because they were breeding, they had breeding plantations, and they was breeding all of these super strong slaves with other slave women and all of this type of stuff. And it's like that created a bunch of, basically that led forth the NFL. That's why, I mean, that's why you got all these, down south big old, giants that could, there's 300 pounds that could run uh, you know, uh, freaking quarter mile in uh 10 seconds or less or whatever. It's that type of freakish stuff, right? Because of that, but um, that led to what that led. But you got to also understand this paradigm of choosing, Kundalini, what did I call them? Kundalini, uh, Kama Sutra warriors. I'm one. I'm one, right? But like, I mean, you choosing these Kundalini Kama Sutra warriors, right? You know, probably ideally from the hood, right? And having these babies, that's gonna bring a certain biological future. That's going to bring certain types of biological traits. That's going to bring a fourth, basically a future that is. You can say basically a lot of women they complain about fuck boys, but they don't do nothing but create more super fuck boys. Like that's like literally like I can tell you for as far as men per se, that's literally what you're doing. Like you're making the future, basically Kama Sutra Kundalini warriors, right? And that's that's interesting, but it's is that going to bring forth people that make rocket ships that people can make automotive manufacturing companies or bring forth the next layer of technological innovation. Like I don't know if that you know dynamic is going to bring forth that. I speculate, but the thing is that that's what happened. It's continuing to happen, right? And it is bringing an interesting future, right? An interesting paradigm, right? But the thing is the whole point of the conversation is, yeah, money doesn't make your situation with women all of a sudden like, okay, you get millions of dollars, now you get the best wife in the world. No, um you that's going to be a challenge even if you still have money. It's going to be extremely challenged. I remember like the guy that ran Murder Inc., Irv Gotti. He died I think a year ago or something like that. But before, I think a year before he died, he said he had just he had just I think like sold some royalties or something like that, or sold some type of think record rights or something like that, masters, I believe. And he got like I think like over $100 million or something like that from the deal. Got like a bunch of money. And his complaint was, well, because he's obviously single, he can't find any woman to be with him. And of course, he's older. He's an older man. He has health problems and stuff. He couldn't find a woman to really legitimately be with him for him. They know most of the women know who he is. He's a famous person, right? He's a celebrity. He can't find a woman to be with him, and that's the thing about it, right? But yeah, like money, I don't think money will necessarily, if you're having a problem with women, money is not going to necessarily solve that issue. You know, depending on the person, it might help. But if you know, it just depends on the person. Like I say, if you haven't if you haven't had that much problems with women, and you know, maybe it was even a thing where you didn't really have that much money, and you just the way you lived your life was totally different or whatever. Like, I mean, maybe when you get money, that might help somewhat. But if you're a guy that has like problems socializing with women and getting women and getting some type of reciprocity from women, meaning it's a give and take situation. You're giving, she's giving, you know, you're taking, she's taking. Like when you know how to have relationships like that, or you don't know how to have relationships like that with women, and you've had issues with that in the past, yeah, you get money, that's not gonna make that better because you haven't established boundaries. You might have some type, like that's why dudes actually need dating coaches actually, or somebody to talk to, because it's a combination of things. Like one thing a lot of dudes do, and a lot of guys that just, I'll say, are like nerds, or they're not used to socializing with women because they probably didn't do it at a young age. You're supposed to socialize with women when you're young, like when you were in like, yeah, basically junior high. You're supposed to be start to be social with women. So you got some men that they went their whole high school experience, their whole even college experience, where they would just basically just kind of just a guy on the wall, or they just wasn't even getting noticed by women, or they wasn't really socializing with women like that. So they they have certain complexes with women. So they basically, one of the things that men do that have this type of construct is that they pedestalize women. They put women above everything, like this just pedestal, like she's so, you know, above me, and you know, I'm just, it's like you make a woman your goddess. You know, she's above me and I never can be. And that's where you messed up before you even met the woman, because you have a goddess complex, and you pedestalize women because you have very low self-esteem and low value of yourself and all of this other stuff. And it really much, I can just stop right there, because I can't, if I go further, it doesn't matter, because that's where a lot of guys, that's why the whole quote unquote manosphere exists. That's because a lot of men were simps, and that's what simps do. They over pedestalize women. They, you know, have a goddess complex when it comes to women or whatever. And you know, it's never that, you know, they're above, like, or they have a god complex. And you know, it's like they have a goddess complex where they worship women and pedestalize women. And you know, they basically simps, and they get burned or they get messed up in the game, and then, you know, they want to, you know, start, you know, talking about how this and that is messed up with women or whatever, and you know, whole red pill rage stuff and all of that. But the thing is that that's one of the, you know, reasons why this quote unquote idea of a manosphere exists, because you got men that who are basically simping on women, and they found out the hard way, that you know, basically, uh they need to learn about women, and they need to learn about themselves, you know. But the thing is some guys don't have to do that. They, you know, they learn that up over time, or you know, they might have a lot of dudes don't have fathers and uncles and older cousins to educate them or tell them something, you know, so they grow up and then they got to figure everything out by themselves. So, you know, that's an aspect of it, you know. But if you're, I'll say this and I'll close out. If you have money, or you didn't have money, and you let's just say you know how to deal with women, and you know, you were getting in where you fit in, even if you didn't have that much money. If you do have more money, you will you will be able to open doors and get in certain places, and you'll be able to you obviously be more confident and everything like that. So it will enhance your, I would say, ability to court women, or deal with women if you got more money. So and there's the two tail of the two different types of men. It depends on where you are in that scenario. So if you got a little understanding of women already, and you was kind of successful, versus you weren't successful, and then you already all of a sudden get money. It's a different type of different type of situation. But nevertheless, I mean, um I like, again, rewind this and go back to that homework assignment, that I said earlier. I think you should try to do that, because, like, if you got a dollar amount that you're worrying about, what is that dollar amount that you wouldn't be worrying? I mean, like, for example, for me, I would say probably about $300,000. You know, so, like, you know, and obviously, instead of worrying, I mean, the next step is, try to come up with some type of action plan to where you can make that accomplish that amount of money. And that's it. Like, I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, you try to come up with this amount, and try to meet this goal, and then technically you wouldn't be worried about that. Whatever you probably you'll find some new things to worry about, right? So, I mean, but yeah, I mean, hopefully this was motivational to you. It's been a minute since I've been on here, so I decided to grace some type of presence. But it's a thing where um it just was on my mind, so I just decided to just basically transmit that to you. So hopefully you got something out of this. um I believe it was very valuable, and I hope that you do that homework, because it might be helpful for you in the future. Stop worrying so much.